Welcome to my podcast channel, ConserveNature with Omae. And in this channel, I tell you stories of beautiful plants and animal. Today, I want to take you on a journey to the middle of a lake in New Zealand, to a tree, not just any tree, but one that is quietly becoming a global symbol of hope, endurance, and quiet strength. I am Chama Imako Kafo, the Nigerian conservation storyteller, and ornithologist, a conservation biologist that love to tell stories. So back to this tree. This tree wasn't planted with ceremony. It wasn't meant to be iconic. In the 1930s, it began as a simple fence post stuck in the ground decades ago by a farmer with no intention of growing a symbol of anything. It's more of a hope, you know. But still standing as a leftover fence, something took root. Over time, this lonely fence post, which is a tree, began to grow right in the waters of a lake called Lake Wanaka. Take note of that name. Surrounded by stillness, often submerged, it kept growing anyways, and slowly but surely the world began to notice. Photographers from across the globe came to see this particular tree. It became a celebrity tree and it blew the social media. People began to travel just to witness this particular tree. And now, without trying, it is one of the most photographed tree in the world. Is that not is that not a feat? Wow. But what is it really? A tree in a lake? Or is it just a metaphor that we all need? Well, before I proceed, this tree is called Dat Wanaka tree. I told you to take note of the name of the lake, right? So the tree is called Dat Wanaka tree. Why is it called Dat Wanaka tree? It is called Dat Wanaka tree because at the time when it became very popular and it made waves on the social media, what it was being described was that tree in Wanaka. And with time, it became that Wanaka tree. But come to think of it, haven't we all felt like that Wanaka tree at some point in our lives? Rooted in a place we didn't choose, standing alone, surrounded by deep waters and shifting tides, and yet we are still reaching upward, still growing. That Wanaka tree stands not in defiance, but in quiet grace. It teaches us that it is possible to thrive even in isolation, that beauty can come from being overlooked, that solitude doesn't mean insignificance. That Wanaka tree isn't just admired because it is alone, it is admired because it endures. There was a moment in my own life where I felt submerged, completely surrounded by change and uncertainty. Everything I knew was shifting beneath me. And then I remember thinking, I didn't choose this kind of life. But like that Wanaka tree, I stayed rooted in what I believe, in the vision I had for myself. And I held my ground and I grew, not loudly, not publicly, but deeply. And I'm super grateful for my growth. That experience, though isolating and even isolated me, became one of the strongest foundation I stand on today. Sometimes the parts of us that grows in the hardest season are the most sacred. So today I want to invite you to this reflection and I want to ask you, who is your Wanaka tree? That person who stood still for you when life was uncertain. I can answer this for you. For me, that who is my Wanaka tree, I will say it's my mom. My mom stood still for me when my own life was also shifting as well. Or maybe you are that tree. In my case, I was the tree and my mom also was my Wanaka tree at some point. So I would like you to tag someone who has been your root to this post share this episode with them and with your community so that they can also learn from the lessons you have learned about the Wanaka tree. But before I wrap up this episode, here's a fun fact about this particular tree. That Wanaka tree is not if a tree from fairy tale. No, this is not a fairy tale story or a fairy tale per se. That Wanaka tree is actually a plant, and it is a tree called the crack willow, and scientifically it's called Salix fragilis. Salix fragilis. Okay, it is native to Europe and Western Asia, but it was introduced into New Zealand. So that Wanaka tree is in a lake called Lake Wanaka in New Zealand. Okay, and this particular tree or plant, though it is, yes, it is a non-native to New Zealand, and it has even been described to be invasive. That means it takes over a particular area where it is being planted, replacing the native species there. But this particular one, which is called that monarch tree, became a symbol of hope and endurance, and it has been treated with deep cultural affection. Look at the attention it has gotten. What does this prove to us? It proves that sometimes meaning often transcends origin. What does it mean? It means, or it proves to us that meaning often transcends origin. So, as I call it a wrap on this episode, I want to leave you with these thoughts. May you have the courage to stay rooted, even when the world shifts around you. And may you remember you don't need a stage to be seen. You only need to stand long enough to grow into who you already are. This remains ConserveNature. Know the name. That's Wanaka Tree, and conserve it. Cheese!